Hey, good afternoon, South Carolina Realtors. This is Louis Dettorre, Vice President of External Affairs, here with you this afternoon. Just came over to the South Carolina Realtors office, to our studio, after an exciting commission meeting here today, and looking forward to some more action tomorrow. But what we have for you here today in the studio is a treat. We have Commissioner Andy Lee here from Congressional District 3, Commissioner, former real estate chair. So really excited to have him here with us for a conversation today, just to talk about what new and exciting things are happening at the Real Estate Commission that you all need to know about. So we're going to have a conversation here. Thanks so much for being here with us today, Commissioner Lee.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to kick it off, we had, like I said, an exciting meeting here at the Real Estate Commission this afternoon, or I should say this morning. It's the afternoon now. What exciting things were we talking about here today that you want to share? We'll get into some more specific topics here in a minute.
Today was actually application hearings. Went quite well. We had some executive session also that we had to cover up, just some house cleaning, so to speak.
Sure.
And then we were back tomorrow for disciplinary hearings.
Absolutely. It's for those that have not had an opportunity to watch a commission hearing. We encourage everybody to stay tuned and to watch those hearings. Are exciting. There can be a lot of interesting debate and topics, and something that everybody can watch. How do our licensees, how do realtors tune in to those hearings? I guess we should take care of that housekeeping.
They're on YouTube. You can go on YouTube, search it. It'll pop right up. If we're not live, it is because we're in executive session. So just, if you don't see us there just yet, just be patient. We'll be right back.
Sure, absolutely. So Commissioner Lee, with the Real Estate Commission has taken up some really exciting topics to include some guidance documents, really prioritizing, from what I understand or can see, prioritizing information that licensees need to know to do their jobs correctly, right? According to law. So last week there was a passage of a limited services guidance document.
Yes. Can
you share a little bit about high level, or if you want to get into the weeds, of what does that document tell licensees?
Sure. It's a guidance document basically reminding limited service of companies of their responsibilities that are still required by our statute. What we've seen, what we've heard is there's plenty of those companies out there that they think their responsibilities stop once they put that listing onto an MLS, and then after that they shouldn't be bothered again. When in fact our statute does not read that way at all. It very specifically defines what a broker in charge's responsibility is, and the limited service groups, they don't get to sign an agreement to get them out of our statute. That's simply not how that works. But we are seeing that a lot. So it was a guidance document put out in the hope that it would help some of the limited service companies say, hey, you can, however you want to form your business, you can form your business, but it doesn't mean that you can't follow the statute as it's written.
Sure. So Commissioner Lee, I think, Mike, if we can, it would be great to add the services document into the show notes. Is that what we're calling them, Mike? The show notes within there too, just as a reference. So there was another guidance document that was talked about here today, and this was around the, I'll give it by its long title, Commissioner Lee, a confirmation of delivery of trust funds. And can you share a little bit about what that was touching on?
In our latest statute change, one of the changes in that statute was that both parties, both the seller agent and the buyer agent, are responsible for confirming delivery of earnest monies. The topic or the reason for that particular document is the question has arisen: what does it take to get that done, so to speak? Our recommendation is an email. A lot of the closing attorneys, what they do, they have their software automatically sends it to you anyway. Our recommendation is that as soon as that comes in, you take that, you print it out, you put it in that file, or you scan it into that file, however your office works, and you keep it on file. We were talking about there's different systems where someone had asked if they have a note-keeping software. They go, oh, but I put it in my notes that I did that. Well, that's great, but you could have put it in your notes, meaning to do that, then got distracted and didn't.
Sure.
So we need something directly from the agent, I'm sorry, not the agent, but the attorney most likely, in writing for both parties, both buyer and seller, that says, yes, that the earnest monies have been received and have been deposited.
Absolutely.
And, a note that says I called is not going to be sufficient if there's an investigation or an investigation.
Sure,
or inspection.
absolutely. So, Commissioner Lee, so it sounds like really an email is just something that can be done quick and to the point. There's something that just is added to the record. They have adequate documentation that says those funds have been delivered, and that meets the requirement.
Correct.
So you mentioned a little bit about changes in guidance to further explain recent license law changes.
Mm-hmm.
So for those that have been paying attention, we know that a lot of work was done at the legislature to get our Practice Act
Yes.
up to current times, up to speed, and you were instrumental in getting that work accomplished as chair down at the legislature. If you want to talk a little bit about just high level, what changes were or affected through that Practice Act change, and probably what are the highlights that licensees need to know and be paying attention to for what could be going into effect here coming soon or presently effective.
Sure.
Because of that change.
One of the biggest ones was the banning of wholesaling. That one was a personal one for me. I really wanted to see that get pushed through. It did. It's actually frustrating. I'll be on Facebook or whatever, and I see all these courses that teach you how to get around our law and make it legal. I assure you, it is not. So to avoid that particular one, wholesaling in general or specifically, and again, this is just good office practice. I can't tell you the number of attorneys that have called me and said, I had 9 people this week trying to close a wholesale deal and I refused. I'm like, good job, you should have. I can't control the attorneys, but we do have say-so over the licensees. And it very specifically says in our statute that you may not participate. So, and a lot of times what has happened, what we're hearing anyway, is that some agent didn't, quote, know that it was a wholesale situation. Well, that's also your fault if you're the listing agent, because in order to fill out the listing agent, and we've said this for office inspections and everything else, what you need to do is print out a copy of the deed. And if those names on that deed don't match the listing agreement, you don't have a listing agreement.
Problem.
So, and then too, and another scenario of that, this relates back to the office inspections, which we now do once every 3 years is our goal. Same thing, when the inspectors come to your office, they're going to ask to see a handful of listings, and that's what they're going to want to see. They're going to want to see, can you show me does this person, did they have the right to sign this? If it was Jane and John Smith, and only John signed it, our position is you don't have a listing agreement. So, and then think about the potential statute violations after that. So you don't have a listing signed properly, or you don't have a listing period. You've now advertised that listing. So now you're advertising property without a listing agreement. I mean, it just cascades, right?
Sure.
So make sure that listing agreement matches the deed. As far as wholesaling goes, there is no workaround regardless of what that YouTube video told you. I promise you it's inaccurate. That's completely not the case. Another one now is what we've experienced is a lot of the problems, in our opinion, a lot of the agents that come through that have violated the statute, not necessarily maliciously. Our position is a lot of times it's lack of broker supervision. You've got either a broker that is, a straw broker that's inactive, they're not really, lives in, Idaho or wherever they may be. Under the new statute, if any violation that a licensee is charged with, the broker in charge has to come with that individual now. So we're going to have questions for that broker in charge as well as to how your licensee got this far into this mess without you knowing and without you doing something to help stop it and correct the situation. That one, in my opinion, is huge. I hope that starts making an impact. I think it will. And then too, quite honestly, at the commission, when if I've seen the same broker in charge 7 times this year,
Sure.
that's probably going to lead to some type of an investigation, because why do we keep seeing the same broker in charge?
I think I want to just pivot to another topic that's, I think, on everybody's mind. If you, we were at Capital Conference, SCRLM, more specifically this in early March, and you were on a panel, and we talked with Chair Reinhardt and Vice Chair Burnett as well. And we had a conversation, and we touched on artificial intelligence, AI, briefly. And what potential landmines are you seeing as a commissioner that maybe are far in the future, or maybe they're on us now? What do you see as potential landmines as it relates to AI and real estate?
Right. So, the big thing to keep in mind, it's an extremely useful tool, no question. I mean, I've used it multiple times, if nothing else, just for like property descriptions. It is shockingly good, regularly. But it's important to remember that at the end of the day, no matter what, you better be rereading this stuff. You better be looking for any potential pitfalls in anything that you put out, especially as John pointed out. There was a situation that was told us at the Arillo conference where, in one of the pictures, it was a sofa, it had two lamps on either side of it, et cetera, et cetera. The people buy it and they move in, they want to know, where are those outlets in the floor that those 2 lamps were plugged into? Well, they were not there. That was an AI generated photo. Well, that's a conflict. That's a problem, And then even, like I said, with my property descriptions, that's what I've mostly used it for. You better read that stuff, because it's like, it sounds great. It's a lot better more creative, I guess, than what mine probably would have been. But at the end of the day, the real estate agent, the licensee, is responsible for whatever goes out there. It's your responsibility. It's your fault if it goes poorly. So always double check your work. Always look for pitfalls. Again, especially like with the pictures and whatnot. If somebody buys that and they love that setup, they're going to want to know where those 2 outlets are, and they're going to know who's going to put them in, because you basically advertised that they were there.
Absolutely. No, that's a really good point. And for everybody, Commissioner Lee, you mentioned ARELO. ARELO stands for and correct me if I'm wrong, it's the Association of Real Estate License Law Officials. And that group just met in South Carolina here not long ago for a legal conference. And there was a lot of really good discussion around regulatory issues nationwide, and some of those issues that were brought up were still to be yet discussed and digested as well. But you brought up a really good point around AI, and that was a focal conversation at that conference, and what other states were sharing around what they're seeing for issues around that. So I'm glad you brought that up. It'd be interesting to see what future issues are discussed or come out of that.
It will be, yes.
As we look at future legislative topics and the like as well. So I don't want to conclude this conversation before we talk a little bit about office exclusives. We had a short conversation off camera about some of those things that you're seeing as well, and wanted to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit more about that.
Sure, that's a big topic that we're covering in the Real Estate Commission right now. It's a big topic nationally. What's the office exclusive? It's what there's been studies done. Actually, there was a reporter who had agreed to an office exclusive. She got talked into it. They explained how they had this special group of buyers, which is good for you, but your special group of buyers won't compete with the rest of the world that's trying to purchase. Our position, I believe, that we're sort of leaning into it goes back to basic agency. Your job is to do what is in the best interest of your client. You're going to have a hard time if this ever backfires, somebody ever files a complaint, you're going to have a hard time explaining to us how it was in the best interest of your client to keep it in office so just your people could show it. Our position, my position at least, is that what you're doing is you're chasing both sides of a commission, which is not what's in the best interest of your client. And that is what you're legally obligated to do, is you do what's in the best interest of your client. It's what we've seen is there'll be sections or neighborhoods where they very specifically use one real estate agent. They're super popular in that one. That real estate agent has been able to talk them into staying, just letting it be an office exclusive, because he has all these overly qualified buyers for just your product, right? And what we're seeing is you take that neighborhood and then you take the one beside it. This neighborhood, say it was $1 million home, because it wasn't on the open market, you only got 950, which, then it happens again, it only got 950. These over here selling for $1 million, $1 million plus.
Sure.
Identical properties, except this is the open market and this one is not. So in a neighborhood where there's, say, 200 people, well, after you sell the first 3, you've just set the comps for that neighborhood. That's the new comps. Well, you just devalued every home in that neighborhood by $50,000 based on my number scenario that we just gave. So it's you don't have the ability or the right to do that to everybody in that geographical area just because you want to have both sides of the commission, which is, if we strip all of it out, that's exactly what it is. Sure. You're chasing 2 sides of the commission, period. So I'm not suggesting there's not a reason every once in a while for an office exclusive. I've had many of my friends, many other agents just all over the state call and tell me about how they do it and why it works out and why they should be able to do it. I promise you, at the end of the conversation with me, they agree that they cannot do that without getting in trouble. Sure. So in your brain, you think you got a good excuse. I promise you, you do not. Right?
Well, and looking and considering always what's in the best interest of your client, right?
Correct.
Always what's in the best interest of the consumer that you, are serving would probably be, the very, very, if not the most important thing to consider within any of those scenarios. So
Washington State actually has just passed a law preventing it, and there's a couple other states that have it on the docket.
Sure.
So I foresee that. I can see that in our future as well, quite honestly.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. And, just further just that point as well, at the Arello conference, as they talked about in terms of private listings, but that's to your point of many states we're contemplating, what they're seeing and how to address it, and what's the right formula for their state.
Well, I'm not saying that every single situation, but for example, like, Oprah. If everybody knows Oprah owns this house on Lake Huey, and she doesn't want that out there, that it's going to be sold because she doesn't want everybody walking through her house, I hear you. But if your name's not Oprah, you need to reconsider it.
And if you are Oprah, you get a car.
That's right.
You get a car.
Exactly.
You get a car, right? I get a car.
Exactly.
Before we conclude, I did want to just ask if there's anything else that you wanted to share on hot topics. In a prior life, this question was always asked to me, and it said, Commissioner, what's making your phone ring?
What's making the phone ring? Well, of course, the office exclusive, that's been blowing me up lately. The upcoming, the upcoming team language / advertising requirements, which we can't seem to get correct already, even with the existing law. The one, that doesn't go in effect until of May of 2027. But I would encourage everybody to look that up. It's 4057-360, I believe.
Okay.
Look that up, read it. That is a coming. All teams, will have to end in the word team. From here on out, and this was passed in 24, you were given 3 years to get used to that concept and idea.
So passed in 2024, and then effective, is it May? It's May of 2027?
That's correct.
Okay, so 3 years to that point.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Those are the big things right now. I get a lot of phone calls though, and just a lot of stuff in general. Honestly, to all the brokers in charge out there, I get so many phone calls per day from agents or brokers in charge, and I don't mind, but it's basic license law questions. Sure. Well, if you just take a second and read it, you go a long way. Educate yourself. I realize it's not something that you've done since broker school. I get it. It's been a while, but especially since it's changed since 24, I would really highly encourage brokers and associates as well. Read the law. You stay out of a lot of trouble.
Absolutely. So print off that license law, put it on your nightstand, and when you just can't sleep at night, you just pull that out and,
And
just
read it.
Read a couple sections of it.
Exactly.
We'll go through. We'll check in again with you here shortly, but this has been a great opportunity to spend a few minutes with you and chat today. So thank you so much for your
Absolutely.
for your time, and until next time, Commissioner. Thank you all. Appreciate your time.